Arizona Territory, 1878. Naya hit the sand hard, the breath punched out of her chest. Pain sliced up her side as warm blood spread beneath her torn tunic. She tried to push herself up, but her arms shook too violently to hold her weight. Chogan's shadow fell across her. "You're done," he said coldly, voice sharp as flint. "Traitor dies where she falls." His rifle lowered, not to finish her, but to mark his decision. He turned his horse with a snap of the reins. No hesitation, no remorse. He'd already chosen the story he would tell, and it didn't include her living long enough to correct it. Naya's throat burned. "Chogan, don't..." But her voice cracked before the plea took shape. He rode off, warriors following like a dark tide swallowing the horizon. Their hoofbeats rolled away, leaving only the rasp of her uneven breathing and the circling whisper of vultures overhead. Naya pressed her hand over the wound. Hot. Sticky. She knew what that meant, but she wasn't ready to die. Not like this, not as the thing he'd called her. She clawed toward a strip of shade beneath a rock outcropping, just enough to keep the sun from cooking what was left of her strength. Every inch she dragged herself felt like a mile. Every breath scraped against the fear swelling inside her chest. "Not like this," she muttered through clenched teeth. Her vision blurred, then sharpened, then blurred again. She tasted dust and blood and humiliation. Her own people had left her like she was nothing. A stain, a burden, a lie. She curled slightly, fighting the shaking in her limbs. If she closed her eyes now, they might never open again. She tried to focus on anything. The grit beneath her nails, the sting of the wound, the way her heartbeat thudded too loud, too fast. "Live," she whispered to herself. "You ain't done. Not yet." The wind kicked up a swirl of sand. Something distant thudded through it. A rhythm too heavy to be her pulse. Hoofbeats, slow at first, then closer, steady, deliberate, alone. Naya stiffened. Her breath stopped halfway in her throat. If Chogan had come back to finish it, or if white soldiers had found her, there would be no bargaining, no mercy. She forced her eyes open, blinking the sun away. A dark figure emerged through the shimmer of heat. Tall, broad-shouldered, mounted on a dust-colored horse. Not Apache, not cavalry blue, not a face she knew. The rider slowed, eyes narrowed beneath the brim of his hat. He guided his horse carefully toward her, as if expecting a trap. Naya tried to push herself upright, but the pain stabbed so deep she dropped back with a gasp. The rider swung down. Boots hit the ground near her head. For a moment he just stood there, silent, taking her in. A black cowboy. Rough coat, dusty hat. A man who'd clearly ridden far and long. He crouched beside her, voice low, steady, not cruel, not soft, just controlled. "Girl, you're hurt bad," he said. "You trying to die out here?" She clenched her jaw, forcing the words out. "Leave me alone." He exhaled, a long, tired breath, and shook his head. "Trust me. I tried that trick before. Didn't work for me neither." She glared weakly at him, chest rising sharp and uneven. He reached for the bloody cloth at her side. She slapped at his hand. A fragile, hopeless swing, but she tried. He caught her wrist gently. "No fight left in you," he murmured. "Ain't no shame in that." "Are you soldier?" she forced out, fear cracking her voice. His jaw tightened at the word. "No, not anymore." Not a lie, but not the whole truth either. He slipped his arms beneath her, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. Naya winced, a small sound escaping before she could hold it in. His voice roughened. "Easy now. I got you." She should have resisted, fought, screamed. But darkness edged around her vision, and her body betrayed her. As he moved toward his horse, she managed one last whisper. "Why, help me." He paused, just for a heartbeat. "'Cause somebody should have helped me once," he said quietly. "And they didn't." He mounted with her held close, steadying her against his chest. Her head fell to his shoulder despite every instinct screaming not to trust him. The cowboy clicked his tongue, guiding the horse away from the open desert. Slow, careful, deliberate, as if he carried something fragile and wasn't sure why he cared enough to. The last thing Naya heard before slipping under was his voice, low and gruff, meant only for her. "Hang on, girl. Ain't letting you die in this damned sand." Zeke rode hard, holding Naya steady against him as her breath fluttered in shallow, broken waves. She was burning up, trembling with every step the horse took. "Stay with me," he muttered, tightening his arm around her. "You hear me? Stay." Her head rested against his shoulder, too weak to lift, but her fingers twitched once, just enough for him to know she heard something, even if only in a dream. The desert behind them stayed quiet. No riders, no dust trail. But Zeke's gut twisted anyway. He knew pursuit when he smelled it. He'd lived long enough on both sides of a gun barrel to feel danger miles before it arrived. He slowed the horse near a narrow wash of rock, guiding it down a hidden slope. At the bottom sat an old hunting cabin, nearly swallowed by sagebrush and dusk. "Hold on," he said, breath unsteady as he swung off the saddle. He lifted her again, cradling her close. She winced at the movement, a soft cry slipping out, more pain than strength. That sound. God, it hit him somewhere he didn't like to admit he still had feelings. He pushed the cabin door open with his boot. Inside lay dust, a cot, and the smell of long-ago wood smoke. Nothing more. But it was shelter. Zeke laid her onto the cot, working fast, pulling a knife from his belt to slice open cloth around her wound. The bleeding had slowed, but the bruise around it told the truth. She'd been hit close, too close. Her eyes cracked open. Not fully, just enough for him to see a flash of fear. "Don't," she whispered. He leaned in. "Don't what?" Her pupils focused on him, hazy, searching, afraid. A single word scraped out. "Soldier." Zeke froze. The word cut deeper than any knife, and he couldn't blame her. That tan on his coat, that stiff way he moved. Even years after leaving, pieces of the uniform clung to him like ghosts. "No," he said softly. "Not today. Not anymore." But her eyes filled with dread, not trust. She was slipping fast. He reached into the old cabinet, found half a bottle of whiskey, and returned to her side. "This is gonna hurt," he warned. She let out a bitter breath, almost a laugh. "I'm Apache. Hurt is life." That stubborn fire sparked in him, respect and worry tangled together. "You ain't dying on my watch," he said. He poured whiskey over the wound. She jerked violently, biting back a scream. Zeke held her shoulder down, voice low, rough. "Easy, easy. I know, I know." Her breath turned ragged, eyes squeezed shut. "You could leave me," she whispered, voice thin as spider silk. "Safer for you." Zeke stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "I've already left enough people behind. Don't intend to add you to that pile." Her brow tightened in confusion. He didn't explain. Wouldn't. Couldn't. Instead, he stitched. Slow. Careful. Hands steady from years of fixing his own wounds and those of men who bled beside him. When he finished, she was barely conscious. He sat back on his heels, wiping sweat from his brow. "You got a name?" he asked quietly. Silence. Then faint as dying embers. "Naya." Zeke nodded once. "Name suits you." Her eyes fluttered open. "You have name?" "Zeke." She breathed it like a question. "Zeke. Why help, Apache Girl?" He swallowed, eyes flickering away. "Maybe 'cause once somebody should have helped me, didn't." A small truth. Not the whole truth. Not the worst of it. Naya tried to study him, but her strength gave out. She slumped back onto the pillow, breaths slowing. Zeke adjusted the blanket around her, watching her face for signs she might slip into something she couldn't climb back from. He caught himself staring too long, too soft. He stood abruptly, ashamed of what stirred in his chest. Outside, the wind carried a distant thump. Hoofbeats fading or approaching. Zeke's hand dropped to the revolver at his hip. "Hell," he muttered. "Someone's coming." He glanced back at Naya. She lay still, fragile and fierce all at once. "Don't worry," he said under his breath as he checked the window. "I ain't losing you to the damn desert, or to whoever's still hunting you." He holstered his gun and stepped into the doorway, shadow falling long behind him. If someone wanted the wounded Apache girl he'd just saved, they were going to have to go through him first. Zeke rode into San Gabriel just past sunrise, the town still half asleep and dusted with quiet. Naya leaned limp against his chest, breath shallow, skin hot with fever. He held her tighter as a ranch hand paused mid-step to stare. Folks in San Gabriel always stared at him. A black cowboy was strange enough. A black cowboy carrying an unconscious girl? That drew looks sharp as nails. "Mind your business," Zeke muttered, riding past without slowing. He pulled up beside the small brick building marked Dr. Howard. Surgeon swung down and gathered Naya carefully into his arms. Her fingers curled weakly against his shirt. "Where are we?" "Somewhere safe enough," he murmured. "Safer than the sand." Her lashes fluttered, but she didn't argue. Inside, the doctor looked up sharply. "Lord above, boy, what happened to her?" Zeke kept his voice firm. "Stray bullet on the trail. She's my wife. Mexican side. Don't ask more than that." Howard's brows rose. "Your wife?" "Yeah," Zeke said, jaw set. "You gonna help or you gonna judge?" That ended the conversation. Howard waved him over, rolled up his sleeves, and began examining the wound. As the doctor worked, Naya opened her eyes just enough to see Zeke speaking low to him, quick, guarded, never letting her out of his sight. She caught only fragments. "She doesn't speak English well. Keep quiet about her. Nobody needs to know more." She tried to lift her head. Her voice came out thin. "Why, lie?" Zeke leaned close, lips barely moving. "'Cause if they know you're Apache, they'll drag you out back before I can stop 'em." She swallowed hard. The fear in her chest twisted into something colder. Distrust. "You sell me?" she whispered. His expression hardened. "No. I keep you alive." But her eyes followed every movement of his hands, every flicker of hesitation in his voice. Slowly, painfully, she began to realize how trapped she was. In her body, in this building, in his arms. 15 minutes later, the doctor stepped back, wiping his hands. "She'll live," he said. "But she needs rest, and you need a room." Zeke nodded, dropped a few coins on the table, and lifted Naya again. Her breath hitched at the motion. "Sorry," he murmured. "Almost done." Outside, the town was waking up. Doors opening, horses tied, men gathering for morning whiskey. Every head turned to them. Every stare landed on Naya like a brand. Zeke felt the tension rising. He kept his stride steady, but his hand hovered near his gun. At the old boarding house, he kicked the door gently. The landlady peeked out. Gray hair, sharp eyes, suspicion already brewing. "You bringin' trouble, mister?" "No, ma'am," Zeke said. "Just need a room for the night. She's sick." The woman's eyes lingered too long on Naya's braids, her skin, her features. Apache features, Zeke. Cut in quick. "She's Mexican," he said. "Took a bad fall. Needs rest." The landlady frowned, but coin spoke louder than prejudice. She pushed the key toward him. "One night, no noise." Zeke climbed the stairs with Naya held tight. Her head lay against his shoulder, but her voice was a whisper of distrust. "You hide me. Why?" He sat her on the bed, adjusting the blankets around her. "'Cause truth gets you killed here," he said softly. "And I ain't ready to bury you." Her brows drew together, confusion and suspicion tangled tight. But her eyes were tired, too tired to fight. Zeke stood and stepped toward the door. "I'll get food. Don't move." She managed a bitter smile. Can't even stand. He paused. Something flickered in his chest at that tiny spark of stubbornness. I know, he said quietly. That's why I'm coming back. He left the room and walked downstairs into the waking street. The sun was full now, bright and merciless. Men were gathered near a wall as he approached. They talked low and urgent, eyes locked on something newly nailed there. Zeke stepped closer, and his stomach dropped. A fresh poster curled in the morning breeze. Reward, wounded Apache Girl. A live order of Captain Mercer. Zeke's pulse hammered. Someone had tracked her. Someone wanted her back alive. And someone, right now, might be looking for the man crazy enough to save her. He pulled his hat low and stepped back into the crowd, jaw clenched tight. Damn it, he breathed. Back in the boarding house, Naya lay still, staring at the ceiling, feeling the walls close in. In the street below, Zeke moved with purpose, because he knew one thing with absolute certainty. They were out of time. Zeke pushed through the saloon door, the morning heat clinging to him like a wet coat. He needed food, water, and a plan. Fast. Maria Delgado stood behind the counter, wiping glasses with a tired cloth. When she saw Zeke, her eyes softened. Zeke Lark, she said, half smiling. Haven't seen you in weeks. Trouble again? Ain't it always? He muttered. Maria glanced toward the street. Town's buzzing. Something's got the men riled. Zeke didn't answer. He kept his eyes low and handed her a few coins. Need bread, water, anything quick. Maria nodded and moved to pack the food. Zeke's gaze drifted to her young son sweeping sawdust near the corner. Thin, pale, too small for his age. Maria followed his look, then met his eyes with a weary, apologetic shrug. Hard times, she murmured. Yeah, Zeke replied. Hard for all of us. Before she could respond, the saloon doors slammed open. 2 ranch hands barged in, laughing loud, voices coated in whiskey. Y'all see that poster? One chuckled. Captain Mercer paying gold for some Apache rat. Alive, too. Alive, the other repeated. Means she's worth keeping. Zeke's jaw tightened. Maria froze in mid-step. That the poster right outside? She asked. Yep. Fresh ink. Big reward. The man waved a hand carelessly. Guess Mercer's hunting her hard. Word is she's wounded bad. Zeke didn't move, but something in his eyes went sharp and dangerous. Maria noticed. Slowly, painfully, something clicked behind her eyes. A wounded Apache girl. Worth money. Wounded. And Zeke, showing up with that haunted look, buying food, moving like someone with a secret strapped to his back. Her breath caught. Zeke, she whispered. He didn't look at her, just kept staring at the counter, shoulders stiff. Maria swallowed hard. Who are you protecting this time? Zeke lifted his head. For 1 second, their eyes met, and Maria saw the truth he wasn't saying. A girl, hurt, hunted, hidden. Maria's heartbeat quickened. Zeke, she said again, softer. You know Mercer's rewards buy a year's worth of food. The men at the table kept talking, oblivious. She ain't even gotta be alive, one joked. Mercer says alive, but I bet he don't care. Zeke clenched his jaw until it hurt. Maria placed the food on the counter. Her voice trembled, but she masked it with a nervous laugh. You always did find trouble in the strangest places. Zeke took the bag. Maria, don't. Don't what? She asked, blinking quickly. Don't do what you're thinking, he said quietly. You don't know what I'm thinking, she snapped back. But she did, and he knew she did. Maria looked down at her son again. Small hands sweeping sawdust, little ribs showing through his shirt. Her throat tightened. Zeke stepped closer, lowering his voice. She ain't what they say. Whoever Mercer's looking for, she's hurt, scared, ain't no threat to nobody. That's not my business, Maria whispered. It is, Zeke said, 'cause you're a good woman. Good don't feed a child, Maria hissed. Her voice cracked, not angry, desperate. She shut her eyes for a moment, then slowly retreated behind the counter, gripping its edge until her knuckles whitened. Zeke, you need to leave. He felt the shift in her tone, the way fear had crawled into it, the way her loyalty struggled against hunger. He gave a slow nod. Thank you for at least thinking before acting. She couldn't look at him. He stepped away, pushing through the swinging doors into the bright street. Behind him, Maria pressed a trembling hand over her mouth. Her son looked up at her, confused. Ma? She knelt, brushing his cheek. It's all right, cariño. Mama's just thinking. But her eyes drifted toward the door, and then toward the poster outside. A girl worth real money. Money that could feed her child. Money that could change everything. Maria rose slowly, her face pale, her decision forming like a storm cloud. She took off her apron, walked to the back door, and slipped out silently into the alley. By the time Zeke reached the boarding house with the food, Maria was already halfway down the road to Captain Mercer's camp. Her shawl pulled tight, her face set with the kind of resolve that always ends with someone bleeding. Out of breath, heart pounding, she approached the soldier's post. I have information, she whispered to the guard. He leaned in. About who? Her voice cracked. A girl, and the man hiding her. The guard straightened. You sure, Senora? Maria's chin trembled, but she nodded. And with that small, fragile motion, a betrayal was set in motion that neither Zeke nor Naya would see coming until it was too late. Zeke climbed the stairs 2 at a time, food in one hand, the gnawing dread of trouble in his gut. He didn't knock, just slipped into the room. Naya was awake, propped against the wall, breath shaky but sharper than before. Her eyes flicked to him, wary. You were gone. Long, she murmured. Town's stirrin', he said, and not in a way I like. She studied his face, sensing the tension. What happened? Zeke didn't answer, not yet. He set the food on the table, poured water, handed her the cup. Drink first. Her hands trembled as she lifted it. He steadied the cup for her without thinking. She didn't pull away this time, but she didn't trust it either. When she finished, he finally said it. Someone put a price on you. Big one. He exhaled. Mercer's men want you alive. Naya blinked, fear sliding into her expression. They come, she whispered. Yeah, Zeke replied. They're coming. He crossed to the window and froze. Down the street, Captain Mercer's cavalry rode in steady formation, dust rising behind them. At their front marched Hank Rourke, rifle slung over his back, smile like a man who enjoyed the hunt more than the reward. Damn it, Zeke breathed. Who is that? Naya asked. Trouble in boots, he muttered. And he's got your name in his pocket. Naya gripped the blanket, panic sparking. They think I kill traitor, but Chogan, he shoot first. I try stop blood. Her voice shook. They want me 'cause lie. Zeke didn't flinch at the confession. He only said, Don't matter what's true. They want a story they can sell to Washington. You're it. A sudden pounding rattled the front door downstairs. Board and house check, a voice barked. Captain Mercer's orders. Naya gasped. Zeke moved instantly. Up, he ordered. No time. I can barely. I'll carry you. She shook her head, breath breaking. You leave me. Live. Zeke's voice sharpened. Not happening. Now move. He grabbed her arm gently but firmly, lifting her from the bed. She bit back a cry, leaning into him because she had no choice. Another shout came from below. Boots, more than a few. They're searching every room, Zeke said. Won't be long till they find ours. Naya swallowed, fear raw in her eyes. What we do? Zeke didn't answer with words. He acted. He slung her onto his back, securing her arms around his shoulders. Her breath hitched in pain, but she held on. Keep quiet, he whispered, and keep your head down. He opened the window, climbed onto the narrow ledge. Below them, the alley waited, dirty, narrow, and alive with danger. Naya whispered, You crazy. Maybe, Zeke muttered, but crazy keeps us breathing. He dropped. His boots hit the dirt with a thud. Naya gasped, arms tightening around him. He steadied himself, then slipped behind the building. More soldiers rounded the corner of the street, searching. We gotta move, Zeke whispered. They slipped through the back alleys, keeping to the shadows, weaving between barrels, fences, and laundry lines. Every turn brought another patrol, another close call. At one point, a soldier passed so close Naya felt the wind of his step. Zeke held her tight against a wall, not breathing, not blinking. The soldier walked on. Only then did Zeke whisper, You holding up? Naya's voice was thin. Pain, but alive. That's good enough. They reached the livery stable. Dust Devil, Zeke's horse, snorted softly when he saw them. Zeke opened the stall, lifted Naya onto the saddle. She tried to steady herself but swayed. He caught her waist. Easy. Shouts erupted at the far end of the street. Behind the stable. They went behind the stable. Damn, Zeke hissed. We're out of time. He swung up behind her, one arm bracing her upright, the other grabbing the reins. Hold on. Naya's fingers dug into his coat. I not fall, she whispered, chest heaving. I sure hope not, he said, voice tight. Then he kicked the horse into a hard gallop. Dust Devil surged forward, bursting out of the stable just as Rourke and two soldiers sprinted around the corner. There! Rourke roared. Shoot the cowboy! Girl stays alive! Gunfire cracked. Zeke ducked low, shielding Naya with his body. A bullet grazed his shoulder, hot, sharp, but not deep. Naya gasped. You hit! Not enough to stop me, he grit out. They thundered down the street, weaving between wagons and startled townsfolk. More soldiers poured out behind them. Mercer himself shouted orders. Zeke didn't look back. If he did, fear might slow him. Instead, he rode harder, angling toward the narrow canyon pass outside town. Naya pressed her forehead against his shoulder. You saved me. Again. Yeah, he muttered through clenched teeth. And if we live through this, you're explainin' why every damn man in Arizona wants you. Behind them, the gunfire grew fainter, but the chase was far from over. Ahead lay the canyon, tight, dangerous, unforgiving, exactly where Zeke needed to be if they had even a prayer of surviving the day. Dust Devil pounded into the narrow canyon, hooves striking stone and dirt in frantic rhythm. The walls rose high and jagged around them, tightening like a fist. Zeke slowed the horse only when the echoes of pursuit faded behind them. Naya slumped forward, breath trembling against his chest. You holding on? He asked quietly. She nodded weakly, though her face had gone pale beneath the desert dust. I try. Good enough, he murmured. He slid off the horse, then reached up to lift her down. Her knees gave instantly. Zeke caught her before she hit the ground and eased her to a flat rock. You rest here, he said. I'm checking the wound. Naya winced as he unwrapped the bandage, revealing angry red swelling around the stitches. Zeke's jaw clenched. Damn it! Infection's setting in. She watched his face, eyes sharp despite the fever. You angry, she whispered. Not at you. Then who? He didn't answer. Instead, he tugged off his coat to use as padding beneath her back. And that's when she saw it. A faint cut on the inside lining, a familiar hue of faded blue underneath. Naya froze. Her voice came out hoarse. That coat, that color. She swallowed hard. Buffalo soldier. Zeke stiffened. He didn't move, didn't breathe. The desert seemed to go silent around them. Naya pushed herself upright with shaking arms. You were soldier who burned villages, she said, voice trembling with old wounds and fresh betrayal. You ride with men who kill my people. Zeke stared at the canyon floor. Yeah, he finally said, voice rough. I did. Her breath hitched. You save me, but you are same as them. No, he snapped, then immediately lowered his voice. No, not anymore. Naya's eyes glistened with hurt so deep it cut deeper than any bullet. You think I forget? She whispered. You think I not see faces of my family when I look at you? Zeke's throat tightened painfully. I ain't asking you to forget, he said softly. Hell, I can't forget neither. She turned away, hand pressed over her wound. Why you save me? 'Cause I couldn't save the people back then, he said. Couldn't stop what happened. Couldn't stop the uniform from turning me into someone I hated. Her head lowered. So you try fix it with me? I'm trying not to make the same mistake twice, Zeke said. And leaving you in that sand would have been exactly that. Naya's breath trembled. Anger, grief, confusion all tangled together. She pushed weakly at his chest. Leave me here. No. You owe my people. I owe you, he cut in. And I ain't walking away. Her eyes filled with tears she hated. You are enemy. Maybe once, Zeke whispered. But right now, I'm the only damn thing standing between you and everyone who wants you dead. A small rock tumbled from the canyon wall above them. Both their heads jerked upward. The sound of distant hoofbeats bled through the canyon, echoing, multiplying, drawing nearer. Naya's fear snapped back into focus. They find us, she said. Yep, Zeke muttered, already scanning for a climbable ledge. Up, now. I can't. You can if I carry you. She hesitated. Pride battled pain. Rage battled survival. Then another set of hoofbeats cracked through the air. Closer this time. Naya grabbed his arm. Fine. Go. Zeke lifted her quickly, bracing her weight against him as he climbed the jagged rocks. Each step scraped his boots. Each pull strained his arms. But he kept going. Naya clung to him, heart pounding in terror and fury. She hated needing him, hated trusting him, but she hated dying more. At the top, Zeke set her down just long enough to draw his revolver. You stay behind me, he said, no matter what. Her voice shook, but she nodded. Below them, shadows appeared in the canyon, riders closing in. Zeke steadied his aim. Jaw tight. Back straight. Naya, breath trembling, looked at him with the bitter truth burning through her chest. She should hate him, and she did. But she also needed him. Zeke didn't look back at her as he whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. You ain't dying today, Naya. Not while I still got breath left. And down in the canyon, the enemies kept coming. By dusk, the canyon had grown too dangerous to stay. Zeke carried Naya along the narrow ridge until the rocks opened into a plateau of scattered pines. Naya pointed weakly toward the distant smoke curling into the sky. Camp, that way, she whispered. Not enemy. My father's people. Zeke hesitated. Your folks ain't exactly fond of strangers, especially ones that look like me. She closed her eyes, pain tightening her voice. They know me. They know my father. They must listen. Zeke glanced back toward the canyon. Echoes of distant riders still bouncing faintly off the stone. He exhaled. All right. Let's hope they're kinder than the men behind us. He lifted her again and headed toward the glow of torchlight. As they approached, shadows rose from the dark. Apache warriors stepping from behind trees, bows drawn, eyes cold. One man shoved a spear to Zeke's chest. Another snatched Naya from his arms, pulling her roughly forward. "Naya!" Zeke barked. She cried out, clutching her wound. But the warriors didn't soften. One shouted toward the camp. Voices answered. More warriors emerged, forming a tightening circle. Then, a deep, commanding voice cut through the noise. "Bring her!" Zeke's breath caught as an older man stepped into the firelight. Broad shoulders, silver-streaked hair, eyes sharp with the weight of leadership. Naya's father. He dropped to his knees beside her, lifting her chin gently. "Naya, daughter, what have they done to you?" She tried to smile through the pain. "Father, I came back." But the warmth lasted only a heartbeat. Shouts rippled through the crowd. Angry. Ugly. "Traitor! She led soldiers. She killed a traitor. She must die." Zeke stepped closer, and a dozen spears immediately swung toward him. One brushed his throat. "Easy now," he growled. But the warriors didn't want easy. They wanted blood. Then, Chogan stepped out of the crowd, face lit by fire, smile twisted like a blade. "Well, well," he sneered. "Look who crawled back to finish betraying us." Naya stiffened in her father's arms. "You lie," she hissed. "You know truth." Chogan ignored her and lifted his voice so the circle could hear. "This girl led soldiers to our borders. She got our brothers killed, and now she returns with him." Every spear turned toward Zeke again. Chogan jabbed a finger at him. "Look at him, buffalo soldier coat, hidden or not. He is our enemy, and she brings him here." Zeke's jaw tightened. "I ain't here to start trouble." "You brought trouble," Chogan shouted. "You brought death, both of you." The crowd roared in agreement. Naya's father tried to raise a hand for silence, but grief and anger drowned him out. Chogan seized the moment. "I say, we end it now," he declared. "Kill the girl who brings curses. Kill the man who follows her like a shadow." Naya's breath hitched. She clutched her father's arm. "Please, listen." But the warriors dragged her upright, ignoring her cry of pain. Zeke lurched forward. A spear butt slammed into his ribs, forcing him to his knees. "Enough!" Naya gasped. "She's bleeding," her father shouted. "She needs rest, not more wounds." But the crowd refused to soften. And then, one warrior lit a torch and slammed it into the ground. A circle of flames rose around them, fed by dry brush and oil-soaked wood. Sparks spiraled upward as the Apache warriors tightened the ring, a trial by fire. Zeke pulled himself upright, coughing, eyes burning with smoke and fury. "You hurt her again," he warned through clenched teeth. "And I swear—" A spear pierced the dirt in front of him, inches from his hand. Chogan smirked. "You swear what, soldier? Shoot us? Burn us? Do what your people always do?" Zeke's fist curled. He wanted to hit him, hard. But Naya's voice, weak, breaking, desperate, cut across the flames. "Stop!" She pushed free from the warriors, stumbling toward the center of the circle. "I will speak," she said. "Before you kill me, I will speak the truth." Her legs buckled. She nearly fell. Zeke stepped forward instinctively, but a spear blocked him. Naya lifted a trembling hand to keep him back. She stood alone, face pale, body shaking. Eyes locked on Chogan with the fury of someone who'd been pushed beyond fear. "I did not betray our people," she said slowly. "I tried to stop you." Chogan's face twitched. Naya took another breath, voice growing stronger. "You shot the traitor," she said. "You spilled his blood, not me. And you blamed me to hide your mistake." The circle gasped. Some warriors shifted. Chogan growled, "Lies from a traitor." But Naya wasn't done. "Tell them," she whispered, "when you fired the first shot, your hand shook. You panicked. And I—" Her voice broke. "I tried to pull you back." Chogan lunged at her, fury exploding, but two old warriors grabbed his arms. The crowd erupted in shouts. Naya's father stood slowly, eyes narrowed at Chogan. "Naya's words must be judged," he said. "By all, not by fire alone." Zeke exhaled shakily. For the first time in hours, he felt something close to hope. Naya wasn't safe yet, not by a long shot. But she had cracked the first stone of the wall built against her. And tomorrow night, when this trial continued, the truth could either save them both or get them burned alive. The next morning came with gray sky and colder wind, the kind that made every breath feel heavier. But the Apache camp was already awake, gathering around the fire circle, faces tight with fear, anger, and shame. Naya stood in the center, her wound freshly bandaged, legs unsteady. Zeke stayed behind the warrior's line, restrained by two guards, jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. Chogan paced at the edge of the circle, eyes wild, like a wolf cornered but still desperate to bite. Naya's father raised his staff. "This circle hears truth today. No shouting, no blood, until truth is spoken." Silence spread, tense and sharp. Naya swallowed, breath trembling. "I speak first," she said. Her voice wavered, but her gaze didn't. "We were hunting near the Trader's Pass. Chogan saw the man. He fired first. Not warning shot. Kill shot." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Chogan barked, "Lies! She plotted with the traitor." Naya shook her head. He reached for his bag. Not a gun. Supplies. Payment for furs. One of the older warriors stepped forward, face carved by age and memory. "I saw the body," the man said. "No gun, only bag." Murmurs rose, fearful and angry. But Naya continued, voice breaking open with emotion she had buried since that day. When the traitor fell, Chogan panicked. He said we must blame someone. Someone weak. Someone without a family. She placed a hand over her chest. Me. Zeke stepped forward, only to be shoved back. You tellin' me, he growled through his teeth. He shot a man, then shot you to make it stick? Naya closed her eyes, pain trembling through her voice. He fired at me, on purpose. Said if I bled enough, they would believe the story. The crowd erupted. Chogan roared over them. She lies! She is sick! Fevered! But his voice cracked, and everyone heard it. The old warrior stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Your hands that day, black with powder. You said it from tracking dust. Another voice inside the crowd added, I saw you clean your rifle before we returned. Too fast. Too tense. Chogan backed away, breathing hard, sweat glistening on his brow. Naya lifted her face, shaky but unbroken. I never betrayed our people. I tried to stop more blood. I tried to stop you. Her father's eyes glistened with pain and pride. Daughter, he whispered, why didn't you speak sooner? Naya's voice broke into a whisper. Because nobody would have believed me. Zeke felt something twist in his chest at that. Too familiar. Too damn familiar. He stepped forward again, this time with such force the guards couldn't hold him. He stood at Naya's side. His voice was steady, deep. I ain't Apache, he said. But I know a guilty man's eyes. Seen too many. He pointed at Chogan. And his are screamin' it. Chogan snapped. You shut your mouth, soldier. Zeke didn't move. Didn't blink. Or what? You gonna shoot me in the back too? The crowd roared again. But this time, not in Chogan's favor. Naya's father lifted his staff. Enough! His gaze locked on Chogan, sharp as a blade. You accused my daughter. You wounded her. You nearly killed her. And you lied to all of us. Chogan shook his head violently. No, no, you need me. I lead hunts. I protect. You protect only yourself, her father said quietly. The warriors moved in. Chogan's eyes flared with hatred. First at the old warriors, then at Naya, then finally at Zeke. You'll regret this, he spat. You'll bring soldiers down on all of us. Zeke stepped closer, voice low and cold. They were already comin'. Not for the truth, for the story you fed 'em. Chogan lunged, only to be struck down by 2 spear hafts. He collapsed to his knees, breathing hard and shaking with rage. Her father turned away. Chogan is stripped of rank, he declared. He is exiled from this camp. If he returns, he dies. The crowd parted as Chogan was dragged toward the forest edge, screaming Naya's name like a curse he meant to carve into her bones. When silence finally settled, Naya lowered her head. She was free, cleared, told she was innocent at last. Zeke watched her shoulders shake with quiet, exhausted relief. But just as peace began to settle, a horn blew from the hill overlooking the camp. A scout raced down the slope, breathless. Mercer's cavalry, less than a mile. The camp froze. Naya looked at Zeke, fear and resolve colliding in her eyes. Zeke gripped his revolver. "Well," he murmured, "ain't that perfect timing?" And in that single moment, everyone in the camp realized the truth had come at a cost, because now Captain Mercer was here, and he wasn't stopping until he got the girl he'd paid to hunt. The Apache camp exploded into motion the moment the scouts' warning hit the air. Warriors grabbed bows, children were rushed into tents, and elders barked orders over the crackle of fire. Zeke kept himself between Naya and the chaos, watching the ridge with narrowed eyes. Dust clouds moved like ghosts across the horizon, Mercer's cavalry closing fast. Naya swallowed hard. "This is my fault," she whispered. "I lead them here." Zeke shook his head sharply. "They were already on your trail. Don't you dare take blame for men who live off blood." Her father approached, spear in hand. "We cannot stand and fight," he said. "Too many are weak or wounded. We must move the camp." "But they track me," Naya said. "I am the reason they come." "We know," her father answered gently. "But you are ours. We protect our own." Naya's breath hitched. The first real sign she believed she belonged again. But Zeke saw what she didn't say. Her guilt was a weight she couldn't put down. An elder stepped forward. "We scatter. The strong lead the cavalry away. The rest go north." Zeke crossed his arms. "If you're drawing them away, someone needs to know soldier tactics. Mercer ain't a fool. He'll split riders." "I know his ways," Naya whispered. Zeke turned to her. "No, you're barely standing." "I know the land," she insisted. "And they follow me. They must follow me." He opened his mouth to argue, but another voice cut in from behind him. "Big brother, you planning to leave me out of the fun?" Zeke spun. A young man walked into camp, dusty, lean, eyes bright with mischief and worry. "Jonah?" Zeke's voice cracked. Jonah grinned. "Knew you'd get yourself tangled up somewhere stupid. Figured I ought to pull you out." Zeke grabbed his shoulders. "What in hell are you doing here?" "Heard Mercer was sniffing around for a girl and a black cowboy," Jonah said. "So I followed the buzz." His smile faded. "Didn't expect to find you protecting half a village." Naya watched the brothers. The way Zeke's hardened face softened, just a little. The way Jonah's eyes warmed when looking at him. Family. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Jonah glanced at her. "You must be Naya, the one everyone's hollering about." She nodded slowly. "You come help?" He shrugged. "My brother helps you. That's enough." Zeke shook his head. "Jonah, you don't understand. Mercer ain't after one prize. He's after a whole story. He'll kill anyone in his way." Jonah's smile faded completely. "I know. That's why I'm here." He handed Zeke a rifle. "Figured you should have something better than that beat-up revolver." Naya stepped closer, voice steady despite the fear in it. "We must split," she said. "Camp goes north. We go east, into Hemnuichet." She pointed toward a jagged line of cliffs. "Soldiers cannot ride straight there. Only follow, one at time." Zeke eyed the terrain. A choke point, he murmured. Yeah, that'll slow 'em. Jonah nudged him. Better than dying on open ground. But Naya wasn't done. Chogan, she said through clenched teeth. He will come too. He hate me. He want revenge. Zeke's jaw tightened. Let him come. I owe him a talk anyway. Jonah elbowed him lightly. You always did pick the worst friends. Her father approached again, face carved with worry. Naya, he said, voice thick, you cannot go. She cupped his hand. Father, I must. If I stay, they follow the whole camp. His eyes glistened. You just came home. I come home again, she whispered, if I live. Zeke placed a hand on her back, gentle, steady. We'll bring her back, he promised. Her father nodded slowly, painfully. Go. Buy us time. The plan came together fast. The elders would lead the weak north. Warriors would scatter into the trees to create noise. Naya, Zeke, and Jonah would go east toward the deadly canyon path. Draw Mercer, Rourke, and Chogan away. As they prepared to leave, Jonah leaned closer to Naya. You trust my brother? He asked softly. Naya hesitated. Her heart answered before her mind could stop it. Yes, she whispered, even when I hate him. Jonah chuckled. That means you trust him, right? Zeke shot him a glare. Jonah winked. Then they mounted the horses, Zeke in front, Naya behind holding his waist, Jonah riding beside with rifle ready. Naya looked back at her father one last time. His hand rose in silent blessing. Then, Zeke kicked Dust Devil into motion, Jonah close behind. The three riders tore into the night, drawing the storm with them. And on the ridge above, Mercer's cavalry shifted formation, waiting like wolves. Because they knew the girl they hunted was finally on the move. Night swallowed them whole as the three riders cut into the eastern ridges. The wind hissed through broken stone, carrying the smell of dust and danger. Naya clung to Zeke's back, her breath shallow but steady. Jonah rode a little ahead, scanning the dark. We hit the canyon in 5 minutes, he called. After that, we're ghosts. Zeke nodded, jaw tight. He could feel it. Mercer was close, closer than any sane man wanted. Naya whispered, They follow us. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from certainty. Zeke didn't look back. I know, sweetheart. I hear him too. Hoofbeats, distant but fast. A direction-shifting thunder rolling through the night. Jonah spat. Mercer brought the whole damn army. Good, Zeke growled. Let 'em chase. They veered into the mouth of the canyon. A narrow cut through red stone, barely wide enough for a horse. The walls closed in like clenched fists. Jonah slid off his horse and grabbed a thick rope tied around a rock slab. Ready, he shouted. Zeke nodded. The moment the first shadow of soldiers appeared behind them, Jonah yanked hard. A thunderous crack split the night. Boulders crashed down, sealing part of the canyon, trapping the first wave of cavalry. Dust exploded everywhere. Zeke pulled Naya close. That buys us minutes, not more. Minutes enough, she whispered. But a new sound cut through the dust. A scream. Ride! Jonah yelled. Zeke snapped the reins and pushed forward, but the path narrowed so sharply he had to dismount. On foot, he barked. Stay close. Jonah took the lead, picking his way along the ledge, a path no wider than a man's boot. Naya followed, leaning on the rock wall, teeth clenched from the pain in her side. Zeke backed them, revolver drawn. Then, another crack. A rifle. Stone shattered right beside Naya's shoulder. Jonah cursed. Up on the ridge. They all saw him. Chogan, shadowed by moonlight, perched like a predator on the cliff. He aimed again. Naya froze. Chogan, don't. But he fired anyway. The bullet tore into the rock, throwing shards across their faces. Zeke shoved Naya down. Jonah lunged forward, and the narrow ledge crumbled under her feet. She slipped. Her scream echoed through the canyon as she slid toward the drop. Naya! Zeke roared. Jonah didn't hesitate. He dove, grabbing her wrist before she went over. His boots scraped wildly against loose stone. Hold on, he strained. Naya's eyes filled with terror. I can't. Yes, you can, Jonah grunted, pulling with everything he had. Zeke was already on his knees, reaching. I got you, girl. Give me your hand. But behind them, another rifle cracked. A bullet slammed into Jonah's ribs. His breath left him in a grunt, and blood soaked his shirt. Naya screamed, No! Jonah's grip faltered. He looked at Zeke, pain choking his voice. Big brother, don't let this be your fault. Zeke's soul cleaved in two. Jonah, don't you dare! Don't you dare! Jonah smiled weakly. You were always the light. You just didn't know it. Another crack. Another bullet tearing rock inches from them. Jonah shoved Naya upward with the last of his strength, and she slid safely into Zeke's arms. Her sob broke the night. Zeke grabbed Jonah's shirt, dragging him close. Stay with me, he begged. You stay right here. But Jonah's eyes were already unfocused, breath failing. You got someone now, he whispered, eyes drifting to Naya. Don't waste her. His body went slack. Zeke shook him once, again, a third time, harder, desperate. But Jonah was still. Naya touched Zeke's arm, voice shaking. Zeke, I'm so sorry. He didn't answer, didn't blink. Rage and grief twisted inside him, so raw it scraped through his bones. Behind them voices rose, Mercer's men climbing, closer. Naya grabbed Zeke's face, forcing his eyes to hers. We have to move, she whispered harshly. If we stay, Jonah dies for nothing. Zeke's chest heaved like he couldn't find air. Then, slowly, he closed Jonah's eyes with trembling fingers. I'll come back for you, he whispered. I swear it on my life. He stood, rage hardened into something colder, something lethal. Let's end this, he growled. Naya limped beside him as they hurried down the canyon. Behind them, the moon shone on Jonah's still form, and somewhere up the ridge, Chogan laughed. Dawn crept over the dead canyon like a thin, pale ghost. Zeke and Naya moved silently, every step a fight against exhaustion and grief. Jonah's blood still stained Zeke's shirt. He'd refused to wash it off. Not yet. Not until the man who caused it was staring him in the eye. The abandoned border fort loomed ahead. A broken skeleton of timber and stone perched on the ridge. No doors, no guards, just wind sighing through shattered beams. Naya shivered. This place feels wrong. Zeke tightened his grip on her waist. That's the point. Ain't nobody coming here, except the devils behind us. Hoofbeats echoed through the canyon below. They didn't have long. Inside the fort, shadows bled across the ground. Zeke led Naya behind a collapsed wall, checking the chambers of his revolver. 3 bullets. He muttered, "Mercer got 20 men, maybe more." Naya leaned against the stone, pale from blood loss. "You don't need bullets for all of them. Just the first 2. Zeke shot her a look, half admiration, half worry. "That's the Apache talkin', ain't it?" A small smile touched her lips. "That's the woman who wants to live." He reached out, brushing a thumb across her cheek. "You will. I'll see to it." Before she could answer, a voice boomed outside the ruins. "Zeke Larkin! Apache Girl! Your run ends here!" Captain Mercer. Cold, hard, and hungry for glory. Behind him, Rourke's low laugh floated like poison on the wind. Zeke's hands curled into fists. Naya whispered, "Stay low. Make them step inside." Zeke nodded. He stepped around a broken pillar, gun raised, but kept his body hidden. Mercer's men fanned out around the old fort. Boots scraped dirt. Metal clanked. Voices muttered orders. Mercer stood tall in the center, rifle across his chest. His uniform was spotless, as if the world should bow before the man wearing it. "Bring the girl out," he called. "She's worth more alive. The cowboy's worth more dead." Rourke snorted. "Hell, Cap. Ain't no way that girl's alive after that canyon tumble." Mercer's stare sliced him. "She's alive, or we wouldn't be here." Zeke whispered to himself, voice breaking. Jonah wouldn't have died for nothing. He couldn't let that happen. He stepped out, slowly, gun leveled at Mercer. "I'm right here." Gasps. Rifles swung toward him. Naya held her breath. Mercer lifted a hand. "Hold your fire. I want him conscious when he hangs." Zeke's voice turned low, dark. "You want me? I'm right here. But you leave her out of this." Rourke laughed again, spitting tobacco. "Leave her out? Cowboy, are you blind? That girl is the prize. You're just the trash in the way." Zeke's finger tightened on the trigger. Mercer stepped forward. "Where is she?" "Gone," Zeke lied. "You'll never lay hands on her." Mercer nodded as if expecting it. Rourke. Rourke moved, slow as a snake, swinging around the wall. And there Naya was, barely on her feet, blood on her arm, eyes burning with fury. Rourke froze. "Well, hell, look what we have here." Naya threw a rock, hard. It cracked against Rourke's temple. He stumbled, swearing. Zeke seized the moment. He lunged, slamming into Rourke. Both men crashed into the dust, rifles raised. But Mercer snarled, "Don't shoot! I want her alive!" The hold sucked the adrenaline tighter. Zeke and Rourke rolled, fists flying. Rourke's punch caught Zeke's jaw. Zeke's elbow cracked Rourke's ribs. Rourke spat blood. "You got your brother killed, boy. Should have stayed in chains where you belong." Zeke saw red, pure red. He slammed Rourke's head into the ground. Again, again. The soldiers shifted uneasily. No one wanted to be the one to shoot. Naya took one step toward them. But Mercer fired into the air. "Move again, girl, and I take your leg." Zeke tore the pistol from Rourke's belt and pressed it to his skull. Rourke froze. Mercer inhaled sharply. "Cowboy, don't do it." Zeke didn't blink. This man killed Jonah. Naya's breath caught. She saw it. Zeke was gone. Lost to that burning place, grief carved out of him. She limped closer. "Zeke," she whispered, "it won't bring Jonah back." Rourke coughed. "You don't got the guts." Zeke cocked the hammer. "Try me." His hands shook, not with fear, but with the unbearable weight of rage. Naya touched his shoulder, soft, steady. "Zeke, look at me." He refused. She cupped his cheek, forced him. Her eyes glistened with tears. "If you do this, you stay in the dark, forever." The world narrowed to two people, her voice holding him like a lifeline. "You're not him," she whispered. "You're better than this war, better than the men who made it." Rourke sneered. "Don't listen to her." Zeke slammed the gun barrel harder against his skull. Naya's voice cracked, raw. "Don't let Jonah's last words die here." Zeke's grip faltered. Jonah's smile. Jonah's voice. "You were always the light." Zeke's arm dropped. He fired. The bullet shattered Rourke's pistol, not his skull. Rourke yelped, scrambling back in shock. Mercer raised his rifle, but half his men hesitated now, thrown by Zeke's mercy, thrown by Naya's words. Mercer hissed, "Cowards, all of you." From behind the soldiers, voices rose. Maria and 10 armed townsfolk, Mexican herders, 2 Apache scouts, a blacksmith, all pointing rifles at Mercer's back. Maria shouted, "Put your guns down! These 2 ain't the criminals here!" Mercer paled. "You betray the army? For them?" The blacksmith spat. "We seen enough of your justice, Captain." One of Mercer's own soldiers stepped forward. "Sir, this ain't right. The girl don't look dangerous. The man just wants out." Mercer snapped. "You speak again, and I have you flogged." Maria cocked her rifle. "I'd say your flogging days are over." Mercer looked around. Outnumbered, cornered. Zeke pulled Naya beside him, shielding her. Mercer's jaw clenched. "You 2 leave Arizona tonight. You vanish. You never come back." Zeke narrowed his eyes. "And if we don't?" Rourke hissed from the dirt. "Then you die." Mercer nodded once. Agreement. Deal or death. Zeke looked at Naya. We take it, she whispered. He nodded. They began to back away, slowly, but Naya's eyes stayed locked on Mercer, and she saw something break in him, a crack in the armor of a man who finally lost control. But Mercer didn't shoot. He didn't dare. Zeke wrapped an arm around Naya. Time to go, he murmured. They stepped out of the dead fort together, leaving Mercer surrounded, Rourke shattered, and Jonah's ghost stirring in the canyon wind. The long road west waited for them, but they walked it now, alive, together. The sun slipped behind the mountains as Zeke and Naya left the abandoned fort behind. They rode slow at first, both too bruised, too haunted to rush. Wind swept across the empty desert like a tired sigh. No soldiers behind them, no cavalry horn. Just the hush of evening swallowing the remnants of gunfire and grief. Naya leaned weakly against Zeke's back, fingers gripping his belt. You sure they won't follow? Zeke didn't answer right away. His voice, when it came, was low and gravel-worn. They follow, they die. Mercer knows that now. She closed her eyes, letting his warmth steady her breathing. Every jolt of the horse sent pain through her ribs, but she didn't complain. She was alive. He was alive. Jonah wasn't. The weight of that truth rode with them like a silent fourth rider. Hours later, when the sky turned navy and the cold began to bite, Zeke slowed the horse. We stop here, he murmured. Naya forced herself upright. What place is this? A ridge. Wind can't reach us. Good for a night. He slid off the saddle and caught her gently as she climbed down. She swayed, dizzy. Zeke's hands tightened around her arms. You ain't fallen, Naya. Not tonight. She looked up at him, tears gathering. You carried me out of the desert twice now. He shook his head, jaw tense. I'd carry you 100 times over. They set a small fire. Zeke helped her drink from a canteen, his fingers brushing her hair from her face. Sleep, he whispered. I'll keep watch. But Naya reached out, catching his wrist. Zeke, sit with me. He hesitated, then sank beside her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, she whispered, Jonah saved me. Zeke's throat tightened painfully. He stared into the fire, jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. He shouldn't have had to, he rasped. That bullet should have been mine. Naya slid her hand into his. You're wrong. His eyes flicked toward her, dark, broken. He believed in you, she said. He believed you were worth saving, worth living for. Zeke looked away, voice cracking. I ain't worth nothing. Naya squeezed his hand sharply. Don't say that. Not ever again. He swallowed hard. Her eyes were fierce, shining with firelight and pain. You didn't kill Jonah, she whispered. War did. Hate did. Men like Mercer did. Her fingers brushed his cheek, gentle, trembling. You stay alive. You stay soft where it matters. That's how you honor him. Zeke bowed his head. For the first time since the canyon, a tear finally slipped free. Naya leaned into him, shoulder touching his. He didn't pull away. And so they sat, two broken souls warming each other back to life. By the next morning, they rode west again. They didn't stop until the desert thinned, giving way to scrub valleys and distant pine. 3 days passed, then 5, then 10. With every sunrise, Naya's strength returned. With every sunset, Zeke's anger softened. Not gone, but shaped into something steadier. They saw small ranches from afar, but they didn't approach. News could travel. Mercer could change his mind. They needed somewhere out of reach. On the 15th day, they crested a ridge, and the world opened beneath them. A valley, hidden, wide, green, fed by a thin river that twisted like silver wire through the land. Zeke stared, breath caught in his chest. "I'll be damned." Naya's eyes widened slowly. "It's beautiful." He glanced at her. "It's safe." She nodded. "It could be home." The word felt dangerous. Hope always was. But Zeke dismounted and offered his hand. "Let's see what it gives us." They weren't alone for long. 2 days later, a group appeared. Apache families who'd survived the mountain split. Men, women, children. Wary, tired, but alive. They recognized Naya before anyone else. A woman grabbed her hands. "You lived. You really lived." Naya's heart swelled. "Yes, because someone helped me." Her father arrived next, touching her cheek with shaking fingers. "My daughter," he whispered, "I prayed for your return." Zeke stood a little behind her, uneasy under the watchful eyes. He expected anger, suspicion, resentment. Instead, Naya introduced him softly. "This is Zeke Larkin. He saved my life. Again and again." The Apache warriors exchanged looks, but they nodded slowly, respectfully. Zeke exhaled. Something unknotted in his chest. The following day, Maria and 4 Mexican families arrived too, riding wagons stacked with food, tools, and what little they owned. Maria climbed down and crossed her arms. "You didn't think we'd let you 2 wander off alone, did you?" Naya laughed softly, hugging her. Zeke stood beside them, arms crossed. "This valley big enough for all of us," he said. Maria smirked. "Good, 'cause we ain't leavin'." Weeks blurred into work. They built cabins with pine and adobe, dug wells, planted crops, raised simple fences. The Apache taught tracking and woodcraft. The Mexicans brought irrigation tricks. Zeke built a stable with his own hands, nails hammered with sweat and memory. He carved a small wooden marker for Jonah, placing it under the largest pine on the ridge overlooking the whole valley. Sometimes at dusk, Naya found him there. Silent, gentle, trying to forgive himself. One evening she approached, brushing her fingers along his back. "You're thinking of him." Zeke nodded. "I owe him everything," he whispered. Naya stepped in front of him, placing her hand on his chest. You owe him this, she said. Living, loving, building something new. Her eyes lingered on the ground between them. I owe him something too. Zeke frowned. What's that? She placed his hand against her belly, soft, warm, carrying a quiet secret. Zeke froze. His voice barely escaped. Naya, she smiled. I'm late, she whispered. And it feels different. He swallowed hard. Are you sure? She nodded once, eyes shining. He closed his eyes, forehead falling to hers. For the first time since Jonah's death, Zeke Larkin looked like a man breathing easy. Naya cupped his cheek. Zeke, what will our child call themselves? Apache? Negro? Half of each? None of each? Zeke opened his eyes slowly and kissed her forehead. They'll be what we are, he whispered. What we built. She waited, breath held, and he answered softly. They'll be people of the valley. The stars awakened overhead, lighting the land below, land that didn't belong to any flag, or army, or hate, just to the ones who had lost everything and chose to build again. In that quiet, under the first night of their new life, Zeke and Naya finally understood. Home wasn't a place you were born into. Home was a place you made with the people who refused to leave you behind. And they would never be left behind again. As the final light settles over our valley tonight, I hope this story reminded you of something gentle and familiar, how even the most wounded hearts can find their way home when kindness meets courage. Zeke and Naya carried scars that ran deeper than the desert canyons. Yet together they carved out a quiet corner of the world where love, respect, and second chances could grow. If their journey touched your heart, if it brought back a memory of someone you once protected, or someone who protected you, I'd love to hear it. Your stories, your wisdom, and your experience make this community richer than any frontier gold. Please take a moment to share a thought or memory in the comments. I always read them, and they mean more than you know. And if you enjoyed spending this time with us, please tap the like button. It helps these stories reach others who need a soft place to rest tonight. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new tale. There's always another campfire waiting, another story ready to ride beside you. Thank you for being here truly. Rest well, and may tomorrow bring you peace, warmth, and a little bit of Western magic.